Okay, so this is Professor Brennan still, and we're gonna continue on with talking about conflict in interpersonal relationships, and we just moved into, this is part 2, we moved into discussing conflict management styles. Let's go there right now. And my screen looks kind of weird, so I hope it doesn't look weird for you, but it looks kind of grainy. I'm not really sure why. We'll continue on. Okay, here we go. Conflict styles. And ignore my dogs in the background who are scratching to get in. It's their dinner time. They're going to have to wait for a second. So conflict management styles: avoidant, competition, collaboration. Your book talks about these. In other lectures I've given, I've used compromise and accommodating in addition to conflict management styles, but we're not going to talk about those today because that's not really what you're being taught from this textbook. So let's move on. And these will be enough actually for you to understand. So what do we mean, first of all, what do we mean by conflict management styles? It means, again, just a reminder, it means it's your first I want to say your first responder response. It's kind of like that. It's your first response to conflict. Like your initial reaction to conflict, your initial response, your initial reaction. Usually there's a reaction to conflict, whether it's, oftentimes it's fight or flight, right? And that's what we're going to look at. This is flight. Avoidant is like fight. When we have conflict, fight or flight. Avoidant is the flight, is the running away from it. Could be the ignoring of it, okay? Are you a person, when there's conflict, do you want to run away? Do you want to just get away from it, or do you ignore it? Do you shut down? Are you avoidant? Like, is that your first response? That's never my first response, okay? And it can be physical or verbal, meaning you could just stop talking. And we're going to talk about different ways we do that in communication later on in this lecture. You could just stop talking, or you could physically leave the room, okay? Or you could put a hand up, right? You could physically say you're not going to talk about that and say nothing. There's different ways we can verbally and non-verbally communicate that. Avoiding often results in lose-lose outcomes. Why do I say that? Why do you think I say that? So I want you to think about it in terms of communication. What do you know about communication? What did I hear you say? Communication is the driver of all relationships, right? That's what you know about communication. So if you know that, and you're avoiding, and conflict is natural and can be beneficial, as I described earlier in the earlier video, this is why it becomes lose-lose. Not only do you lose out on your opportunity to grow in that relationship as a person, you lose out on the opportunity to grow as two people together in that relationship, creating that relationship and making that deeper, okay, and more, maybe even more, how do I put it? More connected, feel closer, right? More intimate, okay? There's that. And the other person loses. They don't get to know how you feel, right? They don't get to know they don't get to change anything. If you're having a conflict with someone and there's a conflict and you just avoid it, they don't get to try to meet you halfway. They don't get any opportunity to be different or change it or to listen to you. They don't get any chances to grow either. Now, I said all that. There are times where having an avoidant conflict management style is correct. Okay? There's conflict and you might get physically harmed. Be avoidant, right? Be avoidant. Stay away. Get away. If you sense that someone's going to get hurt and you could be that person getting hurt because someone's in this trying to like have a fight with you and there's conflict, go away, right? Take care of yourself. So there are times when this style is appropriate to the situation. What I am saying though, if this is your style constantly in relationships, you're not going to feel connected because conflict is a natural part. All right, let's go on to the next one. Competition, win-lose. This is the fight one. Okay, there's conflict. Do you jump into it when there's conflict? Are you about, I'm going to get you, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove to you, I'm going to show you how I'm better than you, I'm going to show you how you're wrong? My gosh, I'm going to tell on myself right now. I just had a conflict with a person when I was driving on the road. Never did that before. I shouted at someone who left trash on the floor, or on the street, who opened their car door. They were in front of me. They opened their car door and put trash on the street. And I didn't get a chance to go up to them while the light turned green. So the next light, I actually got up next to them and I yelled at them. Now, did that change anything? No, I've never done that before. I've always wanted to do that, and now I did it. And at the moment, I'll tell you what, it felt good to feel superior and to feel like they were a bad person and to tell them off, and it felt good. But notice, high concern for self, low concern for others. I didn't even know this person, right? That's like road rage in some way. But I felt justified. I'm standing up for the earth. I'm standing up for the environment. I'm standing up for the city of Fresno. So I felt justified, but it was definitely a competitive kind of attitude. And in the end, I don't feel so good about that. If I were to see that person again, I would apologize for my behavior, not appropriate behavior. There's other ways to handle things. But are you the person who wants to resolve the conflicts your way? Are you pushy? I can be pushy too. When I feel like I was talking about that friend who wouldn't talk to me, I was pushy about it. I'm like, why won't you talk to me? Now, did I call or text her like a million times? No, I didn't do that. But I felt pushy. I wanted control and I didn't have any. So there's that thing. This thing is the fight or flight. I'm definitely more fight than I am flight. So just knowing about who you are and what you get from that, right? If you're that person that is competitive during conflict, why do we call it win-lose? What do you think that means? Well, your motivation is to win. That's what you're all about. It's not about, you're not concerned about the other person's feelings. You're not concerned about, like I was concerned about the dude who left the trash on the street. I was concerned about how I felt like he was wrong and I didn't care, right? So that's what this is about. It's about power. This is all about power. Power is the distinguishing characteristic because in order to win, the opponent must lose. Okay? In order to win, someone must lose. That's what we mean by win-lose. And in order for you to feel superior, in order for me to feel superior, someone else has to feel inferior. So in the moment, that might feel good, but over time, it does not. So is there ever a time to do this? I guess it's going to depend on you personally, of what you can and can't live with. Honestly, I don't think there is a time. There is a time, though, when there's conflict and you feel like you're being oppressed and you need to stand up for yourself. But I'm not sure that that's competitive win-lose. I think that's advocacy and standing up for what you believe in. You can communicate in a way that you stand up for what you believe in is not making someone else inferior. So I'm not sure that there's any like good time to do this, but I can tell you in this competitive way, it does breed aggression, and it can be what we call face-threatening aggression, or it can be passive aggressive, like being passive aggressive in that competitive, like just being, it's annoying, right? So think about that. Is that you? Finally, we're going to get to this one. Collaboration, win-win. What does it mean to collaborate, right? It means to work together. So you got to talk to each other. So here we are. Both parties demonstrate a high concern for themselves and for the other person. They demonstrate a high concern for themselves and the other person. They don't care about winning. They care about the other person. They care about the relationship, right? They care about being in that relationship and working through something because they really love or care about that other person. So how they get there is through communication and sticking through it. Problems are solved in terms of our way versus my way. So you don't try to get what you want, you try to get what you both want, right? It is a we, not an I. The goal is to discover a solution that satisfies everyone. In most creative conflict it's the most creative conflict management style. What do I mean by that? It means that there's more than one mind involved. You're both involved in this kind of repair, right? Or the work through the conflict to understand each other. Remember what conflict is? Perceived scarce resources, perceived incompatible goals, perceived, no, interference by third party wasn't perceived. Perceived, I have to get my notes because I just forgot what that is. Isn't that silly? No, it is. It's an express struggle, perceived incompatible goals and perceived scarce resources. And you're interdependent. So those two perceptions, remember perception is your perception, which is like your filter. Remember we talked about perception earlier in the semester about how we have our own filters of how we see things and what we pay attention to in our culture and our gender and our class and our race and our ethnicity. All of that serves as like filters of what we pay attention to and what we see. And our nation, what nation do we grow up in? Right? Our values, all of that is a filter. It's like putting on certain sunglasses. It has all of our life experiences and the world is filtered through that. If you can see things like that and really understand that piece, it should really help you to understand how people see things differently. That we all see things differently in our own way. So that's why we say perceived conflict or perceived scarce resources. That's what it means. Most creative management styles, you get to talk about that. How did I see it? Well, I saw it this way. Oh, okay. Right? And then here's a good example. So my friend, the friends we thought we were going to move to, they were in Tennessee, okay, to another state. So we decided not to move there, and I gave you all the reasons why. And I find out from one of the members of the couple, who is my very good friend, that she perceived that we broke a commitment. And I had this realization with talking with others about this, that her perception of a commitment and my perception of a commitment to move was different. Okay, perceived incompatible goals, perceived scarce resources. Do you see how perception can cause conflict? So something to think about. Okay, moving on. What do we got now? What's your conflict? So this is your part of your work this week is go to the discussion board. I want you to watch this video by Dr. David Thornson. It's actually a short little TED Talk. And he talks about, like, in coupleship, why avoiding conflict is damaging. Okay. Watch that, then respond on the discussion board with the things that I ask you to respond to. Okay, we're going to stop here and we're going to pick up next with the next slide, which is the 4 horsemen. I love this. We're going to have fun with this. Okay, I'll see you in a bit.